How did the Cold War affect gender roles in Southeast Asia? How did the Cold War affect gender roles in Southeast Asia? This question opens a window into a fascinating period of change and tension. During the 1950s, the Cold War was not just a battle of ideologies between superpowers. It also transformed the roles of women in Southeast Asia. As the United States and the Soviet Union competed for influence, traditional gender expectations began to shift in response to political demands. In this era, women became symbols of national identity. They were often portrayed through nostalgic ideals of domesticity and moral duty. Western democracies pushed the idea that women's roles as homemakers and educators were essential markers of progress. American cultural diplomacy, through organizations like the Committee of Correspondence, encouraged women in Southeast Asia to adopt Western-style domestic practices. This positioned them as defenders of national values against the perceived threat of communism. The post-war period also saw increased interactions between United States servicemen and Southeast Asian women, especially in the Philippines. Media often depicted these women as docile partners who upheld traditional gender norms. This portrayal suggested that Western-style domesticity could help stabilize regions affected by war. It contrasted sharply with communist critiques of gender inequality, framing capitalist societies as morally superior. On the other hand, communist movements in Southeast Asia promoted women's participation in labor and military roles. Influenced by models from China and North Korea, these movements showcased women as essential to revolutionary equality. Films and propaganda highlighted female militias and workers, emphasizing their contributions to anti-imperialist struggles. However, these narratives coexisted with expectations of domestic responsibilities, creating a dual burden for women. During this time, educational initiatives and women's clubs emerged as tools for both sides of the ideological battle. Western-backed programs trained women in skills like childcare and nutrition, linking these to civic duty against communism. Meanwhile, socialist groups organized literacy campaigns and vocational training, aiming to integrate women into the workforce. These efforts reflected the optimism of the era, positioning women as both beneficiaries and agents of change. From a nostalgic perspective, the 1950s are often remembered as a time when women's roles were celebrated as foundational to national identity. Whether through Western-style domesticity or socialist labor participation, women's contributions were framed as harmonious and universally valued. Yet, this narrative often overshadows the complexities of how these roles limited women's autonomy. The era's focus on moral clarity and communal purpose shaped a unique landscape for gender roles in Southeast Asia during the Cold War.